Because I think a lot of times teachers, and I think this is very significant, I say this here, I think a lot of teachers, especially upper echelons, like schools like this, have a tendency, and when you come out of a place like this, you have a tendency to think, well, if they have a good sound, why should I mess with it? You know, if it ain't fit, ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And I respectfully disagree with that. Not that, because anybody can be a little bit better, right? You know, because there's little tricks we can all do, and so I think now there may be somebody that's coming out that maybe they just really are great and you're scared to touch it, but I think maybe most of us can probably use a little tweaking because we're not right there. And like for example, I didn't know about not pinching the corners of the reed. You guys heard about that? Yeah. Okay. Very few. Most people do not know about that. I did not know about that until I read a little book written about Joe Allard's teaching. You see, if you have all the way around pressure. I'll get to the rod in a minute. I wanted on this, but it's significant. You see, if you have an embouchure wheel like Larry Teal, that's Larry Teal in the embouchure wheel, the famous saxophone teacher. He says all around equal pressure. Now on the bottom, this is what? Flat. On the top, it's a little curved. If you have a round against a flat, you're probably going to pinch the corners of the reed. And so I read this 10 years ago, and I thought, well, I wonder if I do that. This is after I finished my doctorate. You know, nobody ever told me this. And so I thought, okay. And so he had a little test where you got this, and you get your finger and you stretch the skin like that to see if you're pinching the corners of the reed, you know, pinching it. I quit doing it, and I got, bing, more sound. Wow. Try it. It's majorly tricky, because obviously, you see, the resonator, man, is the reed vibrating against the slot in the mouthpiece. And if you're flat against it, it's simply going to what? Vibrate more. If you're pinching the corners, it's what? It's not going to vibrate as good. But if you're flat, it'll vibrate better. And therefore, you get more sound. It's like so odd. When I read this, I went, well, actually, when I came to, because I was kind of like, where have I been? Well, this is the kind of thing Joe Allard was always dreaming up because he basically was such a genius. He was always thinking of these little things like that that basically nobody ever thought of, or very few people know. And he came up with that, and so stay flat. So I think that's the kind of thing I wouldn't be scared. I would say, okay, you're pinching the corners of the reed. If this person has a good sound, I would check that. And it's amazing. All of my students, even ones who come to me with good sounds, all students except two pinch the reed a little bit when they come to me, because it's just, we tend to think all the way around or whatever. And so you want to stay flat against that reed. So that's one of my big master class tricks, is to do that, because it almost always gives them better tone. And you don't have to, it's real simple. You just have to learn to stay flat against the reed.